Bat. A pitch over the inside corner that Gonzalez hammers to right. Back is Harper, and it's gone! Adrian Gonzalez, first as a Met, is his 6th career grand slam.
But again, no wiggle room for Lugo. The infield is in, and Michael A. Taylor will be the batter. The 0-2 pitch. Swung on and missed, strike 3. He got him with a fastball. 0-2 the count. Lugo sets. Here's the pitch. In there, strike 3 called. He throws him with a fastball. That retires the side and will go to extra innings.
And Cespedes sends a jam shot into center field. It's going to bring around the go-ahead score. A night's worth of frustration, and Yoenis Cespedes comes through here in the 12th.
I mean, it feels good, because the guys are playing the game the right way. We grinded it out tonight. I think we struck out quite a few times, but when we didn't strike out, we had great at-bats. So, I'm proud of the guys for that. They're playing really well. It's fun to see.
We are 1 week into the Major League Baseball season. 1 week. And already, folks, we got a lot of very, very intriguing storylines developing here in Major League Baseball. Everybody, Michael Cohen here with you, here on the Sports Talk Nation. And again, glad you could join us here today on this radio program. And we are going to talk about specifically what's going on in New York City as the New York Yankees and the New York Mets have basically, and granted, I understand it's only 8 games, or in the case of the Yankees, 10 games. It's only a little over a week. I get that. But basically have kind of flipped the script here a little bit. Yankees were supposed to be this juggernaut team that was going to blow away everybody. That may still be the case, but they've gotten off to a sluggish start. The Mets were supposed to be a team that would be a nice story. Maybe they would find a way to hang around, and that may still be the case. They may not be as hot as they are. I don't expect them to be as hot as they are now. But they have opened up the season, winning 7 of 8, and find themselves at 7-1 to start the year. And if you are a Met fan, you should be excited. You should be proud of the way this team has played so far. Granted, again, it's only just a small sample size of just 8 games. But what you have to like about this team is their ability to fight and stay in these games, even when it looks like they're going to lose. Now, last night was a great example of that. Mets are trailing early. Harvey gives up the 2-run bomb to Bryce Harper, and everyone's going crazy. You got ESPN talking about Bryce Harper on and off. It was actually making me sick, even though I had the game on mute. I was watching Homeland, and I also had the Met game on my lap on the iPad. And all I see is just one highlight after another, after another, after another. Bryce Harper this, Bryce Harper that, Bryce Harper can do this. It was making me sick. It really was. It was absolutely crazy. It really was. They just continue to talk about him over and over and over and over and over again. And you would think that the guy not only hit a 2-run home run, but he hit like 5 2-run home runs. That's what you thought happened in the game if you weren't paying attention. But it was a 2-run home run. Mets find themselves down 2-0. And like I said, it had that feel at times as if the Mets were going to lose this game no matter what. It's getaway day. Last game of the series, Mets took care of business anyway. They won the first 2 games of this series. Not the worst thing in the world if the Mets lose the game. That would be, 6-2? And would have, a game and a half lead in first place over Washington. You take it and you move on. But this team, for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching. I think that's a big part of it. I'll talk about that in a second. They do not give in. Game changes in the 4th inning. They load the bases. Adrian Gonzalez cracks a grand slam home run. Mets take a 4-2 lead. Then you see the Mets give up a couple of runs. Harvey really labored at the end of his start. He did well, with the exception of the 2-run home run to Harper. He did okay. But near the end of his start, started to give up a couple of runs. National started to chip away. Mets do get a run back, but it was just had this back and forth kind of feel for the entire night. And there are a couple of points that really, really stood out to me. First of all, in the 5th inning, Mets are now up by a score of 5-3. They give up the RBI base hit to Trey Turner, makes it a 5-4 ball game. Harvey's still in the game, by the way. Now you have Michael Taylor reach on an infield single, and this is an infield single that was basically hit into no man's land. Harvey can't get to it. Gonzalez can't get to it. There's really no play at first base. Turner's making his way around second. He's going into third. And they only have one play, and that's to try to get the runner out at third. So Gonzalez throws the bullet over to third, and they catch Turner in the rundown. Just terrible base running by the Washington Nationals and Trey Turner in that spot, and that gets the Mets out of a difficult situation. There was another point later on in the game where I believe it was Anthony Rendon. I think he was trying to steal a base with Harper up, and he got tagged out. I mean, there was so many bad mistakes on the bases by the Nationals in this game that really kept the Mets in it, and the Mets kept taking advantage of plays and making plays, really in this entire series, where the Nationals ended up screwing up. That was the case throughout all three games of this series. Now, we're sitting here now 5-5. The biggest point in this game for me comes in the ninth inning, bottom of the ninth. And this is where managing matters the most, especially the way Mickey Callaway managed in this ninth inning and found a way to help his team and put his team in a position to get out of a tough situation. Mets start the inning. Lugo's on the mound here in the ninth inning. They walk Harper. It was the intentional walk to Harper. They pitched around him. They walk him. Adams then flies out. Then, with Harper at first base, you got one out. You got Kendrick coming up next. And Mickey Callaway decides, we're going to intentionally walk Harry Kendrick. Okay. We're going to intentionally walk Trey Turner. And if you were sitting there watching this, you're like, oh my God, what are they doing? Oh my goodness. This isn't good. And of course, it all goes according to plan. Because here comes Michael Taylor, who, by the way, and I'll give ESPN some credit here for pulling up the statistic, that Michael Taylor was 1 for 8 against Seth Lugo in his career, which is terrible. And he strikes out Taylor on a high fastball, gets the second out, then strikes out Pedro Severino for the final out, strikes him out looking, and that gets the Mets out of the inning. That is absolute balls on part of Mickey Callaway. Think about that, folks. Here is a manager in his first year as a manager, first week as a manager in regular season baseball, and he tells his pitcher, walk these two guys intentionally. Load the bases. So at the very least, you have an out at each base for the double play possibility if the ball's put on the ground. And he matches up his pitcher with a couple of hitters that he knows by the book are going to match up well against him. So in that case, and a lot of people kill analytics, I'm one of them. In that case, analytics actually work for the Mets, and a great managing job by Mickey Callaway in that situation, because that was really, to me, the turning point in this game. Now, of course, we wouldn't see any scoring until the 12th inning, where the Mets get the run across, the game-winning run, with Lagares scoring on the Leonis Cespedes RBI single. Talk about a bad decision-making. And decision-making by managers. That was a weird decision by Dave Martinez, the manager of the Washington Nationals, to walk Michael Conforto. I know Conforto hit a home run in the first game of the series, but to walk him intentionally to pitch the Cespedes, who had already homered in that series, has had a pretty good series himself, and you have Kinsler on the mound, who has just struggled against the Mets in the first two games of that series, and you pitch to him. That was a weird mistake. Worked out for the Mets as Cespedes gets the base hit. Lagares scores, and again, Mickey Callaway trusting one of his young guys, Jerry Smilia, not available. He goes to the rookie, Jacob Ram. Makes you a little nervous at the start because he goes to 3 balls, no strikes on Matt Reynolds. Eventually gets him to ground out to third, and then finds a way to get through the inning fairly easily, with the exception of the 2-out double by Defoe. But gets through it, and the Mets find a way to win the ball game 6-5, and they are now, again, 7-1 in first place. And, like I mentioned before, when you look at the way this Mets team has played, and the way they have played in this first 8 games, after having won now 5 in a row, they are clicking on all cylinders. They are playing as a team, as united, as a team that is on a mission. They are focused, and that credit goes right to the manager, Mickey Callaway. I'm sitting there and I'm watching this game last night transpire, and I am watching in between innings. I don't remember what inning it was. I think it was like the 10th inning, 9th, 10th inning. It was after that big 9th inning. And I'm watching Dave Island, the pitching coach, walk over to both Seth Lugo and Travis d'Arnaud. And Travis d'Arnaud, and I know this isn't totally unusual. All coaches talk to players. I get that in the dugout, and they all talk about strategy and pitch strategy. But he comes over there. He's got the big binder. He's going over different kind of pitch selections with both d'Arnaud and Lugo. They're leafing through d'Arnaud's play sheet, kind of like the kind of thing you would see on a quarterback in the NFL or in college, where they have the play sheet on the wrist. They're looking at that. They're looking at the play sheets and pitch selection, I should say, inside of a giant binder. In front of them is Mickey Callaway. He's talking to his bench coach, and they're looking at over matchups. And yes, I understand it's nothing unusual from that standpoint, because all good teams are organized in that way, where you have great communication all the way around between coaches and players. But from the Mets standpoint, we haven't seen that in a long time, folks. Can you remember Terry Collins ever, walking up to players and, going over strategy? I'm sure it's happened. I mean, obviously it has. I mean, the most infamous one was, of course, in Game 5 of the World Series 3 years ago, where Matt Harvey says, "No, leave me in," and then that ended up being a big mistake, of course, as Terry Collins left Matt Harvey in a little bit too long against Kansas City, and the Royals won the game, and as we know, won the World Series that night. But it's just a different feel. There's just a feel that this team is on a mission, and that's something that, even though it is April, it's a nice thing to see early on. It kind of sets the tone for the ball club moving forward in the season. And look, make no mistake, there are going to be days where the Mets are not going to play well. There's going to be a string of games where the Mets are going to lose 3, 4, 5 in a row, or lose 5 out of 6. It's going to come. It's going to happen. So we have to accept it. It's a long baseball season. For 8 games, and from what I've seen from this team so far, they are the example of their coach. That he has set the tone. He is organized. He is focused. He is driven. And that's what I see from this team so far, a team that's focused and driven. Now, there are a couple things I'd like to see a little more of. I'd like to see, if you're a Met fan, I'd like to see some of these starting pitchers go a little bit longer. We haven't seen Noah Syndergaard dominate yet. You would like to see him go out there and have a dominant start. He will have a start in Miami tonight. We'll see how that works. You'd like to see him go 6 or 7. You'd like to see Jacob deGrom get extended a little bit here, go 6 or 7. And same thing with Matt Harvey as well, and also Steven Matz. You'd like to see those guys extend themselves just to save this bullpen, because the bullpen has thrown a lot of innings. And Familia's already thrown 6 innings. Lugo's thrown 6 innings. I think Lugo will probably have the night off here, a couple of nights anyway. Ramos has had 4 1/3. Gesellman had 6 innings, and Gesellman gave up the tying run last night. You knew eventually he was going to give up a run. He's been pitching so well, and he's been pitching basically every day. 5 games already, 5 of the 8. So you knew he was going to give up a run at some point. But you'd like to see these guys get some breathers here and just kind of slow things down a little bit and see these starters go out there and extend themselves a little longer as we move into now the second week of April. Little things. I know it's nitpicking here and there, especially for a team that's gotten off to a very hot start. But again, if you're a Met fan, you got to love what you see from this team. They're giving you something to watch every single night. There is a feeling and a sense that this team can do something special that we have not seen and felt in a long time. I've seen people start to make comparisons to 2006. I'm not going to start to make that comparison. Not going to start to compare this team to 06, or some people have already started comparing them to 86. Let's not go there, not yet. But you have to, at the very least, love what you see from the New York Mets. Now, as well as the Mets have played here in the first week and a half of the 2018 season, is how poorly things have gone for the Yankees and how things have gone off script in a lot of ways for the New York Yankees here to start the season. And you're starting to see from Yankee fans all across social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, everyone is starting to panic. Everyone is starting to question Aaron Boone. A lot of people are starting the hashtag Fire Boone, which is utterly ridiculous at this point. People are booing Giancarlo Stanton at the stadium, which was the case over the weekend as the Yankees lost 3 out of 4 to the Baltimore Orioles. Now, look, losing to the Orioles, losing 3 out of 4 to the Baltimore Orioles cannot happen. It's inexcusable in any situation, whether it's the start of the season, whether it's the middle of the season, whether it's the middle of May. It doesn't matter. You can't lose 3 out of 4 to the Baltimore Orioles, especially when you have the Boston Red Sox coming up as the Yankees do on Tuesday night. So from that standpoint, it doesn't feel good for the Yankees. And the Yankees have played a lot of long games. They had an extra inning game yesterday that they played against Baltimore that they lost 8-7. That game went 12 innings. They had a 14-inning marathon on Friday night. Then they had to have the quick turnaround for Saturday afternoon, the game they did win. But the thing that bothers you about the Yankees is offensively, they're just not getting enough done. Outside of Didi Gregorius, who has had a tremendous start to the year, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, where everyone else is kind of off to a slow start here. Aaron Judge is off to a bit of a slow start. As I mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton off to a bit of a slow start. And not to mention, look, this is a team that's been kind of riddled with injuries here to start the year. Greg Bird out for several weeks with the ankle surgery. We knew that going into the regular season. Brandon Drury had migraines, was placed on the DL on Saturday. Aaron Hicks, a intercostal strain, whatever that's supposed to be. It sounds like a back injury, but I could be wrong. Jacoby Ellsbury with the oblique strain and hip issue, but he hasn't been much of a factor anyway. Clint Frazier, concussion. Billy McKinney, a shoulder strain. CC Sabathia with a hip strain. He's on the 10-day DL. You had Gary Sanchez leaving the game on Friday night after cramps, but, it's been one thing after another for the Yankees here to start this 2018 season. And look, I'm not going to sit here and start making the case that, let's blow this up. This has been a failure, because that's not fair. It's only 10 games. And if you look at the pedigree of this team and you look at the players that they brought in and the players they have, they are going to be fine. They will figure this out. But they got to start to find ways to win games almost immediately. They got to start to pull things together rather soon. And one thing that, and again, this goes back to coaching. I talked about how the Mets are getting great coaching from Mickey Callaway and great leadership from him. Now the Yankees have to find a way to get that kind of leadership from Aaron Boone. And one thing that was very common with either Joe Torre's teams or Joe Girardi's teams was the fact that whenever the Yankees had their backs to the wall and looked like things would start to spiral out of control, both of those guys found ways to get those teams over the hump. They would go into a series like they are this week, going into Boston, and they found a way to take 2 out of 3 and make a big-time statement. And that's what the Yankees have to do. Now, they have the ability to do it. Giancarlo Stanton, folks, is not going to continue to hit 167. He's a 268 lifetime hitter. He is switching leagues from the National League to the American League. And I know there are a lot of Yankee fans that's going to say, that's no excuse. It's no excuse. But think about it. I know he's an NL MVP. I know he's an MVP candidate. But still, we see this all the time with players who go from one league to the next, and more times than not, they struggle. Even a guy like Albert Pujols, when he went from the Cardinals to the Angels, started off slow with the Angels. Carlos Beltran, when he went over to the Mets, started off slow in a new city, in a tough situation. It takes time for some of these guys to get going. So not only is Stanton having to deal with the idea of switching leagues, he's also having to deal with the idea of switching into New York City. Give the guy a break. Give him a chance to succeed for this team. Because you know and I know, we all know, that there's going to be a game where Giancarlo Stanton's going to come up in a big spot, and he's going to get a big hit, he's going to win a game, and then all Yankee fans will be like, oh my goodness, Giancarlo Stanton, he's the greatest Yankee ever. And that's what's going to happen. Give it a chance. Aaron Judge is not going to hit just 2 home runs this year. You know that. Giancarlo Stanton's not going to just hit 3 home runs this year. Gary Sanchez is not going to hit 063 for the entire season. You know these guys are going to start to turn things around rather soon. It's on the back of their baseball card. You would expect that to happen. And the starting pitching hasn't been terrible. I mean, Luis Severino has been good. He's been fantastic. Masahiro Tanaka has done a nice job. Sonny Gray pitched a wonderful game on Saturday for the Yankees, getting them a win that they needed, gave them some length. So the starting pitching has been good for the Yankees so far. The bullpen has gotten hit hard at times, as we know. Jordan Moncada, of course, We saw Jordan Montgomery have a rough start yesterday for the Yankees. Dylan Betances has gotten hit a couple of times. We've seen Adam Warren get hit. We've seen some guys get hit hard. Dave Robertson has gotten hit. Domingo Germán got hit hard yesterday. So there's going to be some guys that really need to pick it up on the bullpen side of things here for New York. And yes, Aaron Boone has to do a better job of managing this pen, but he has to find a way to manage the personalities and get these guys on the same page and just get them to relax, because 10 games does not make a season. Just like I said that, yes, just like with the Mets on the other side of town, 7-1 looks great right now. Doesn't make the season. 5-5 doesn't make the season for the New York Yankees either. But I will say this, just caution to the wind. After this series in Boston, which will be huge, the Yankees go to Detroit. They should do well in that series. Detroit's a mess of a team right now. They get Miami, and then they get Toronto at home. So they get Miami at home for 2 days. They get Toronto at home for 4 days, April 19th through the 22nd. And then they get Minnesota for 4 games at home, the April 23rd to the 26th. Minnesota, I know, is a pretty good team. I mean, they're a pesky team. They gave the Yankees a bit of a fight in that wild card game last year, but the Yankees are better than they are. They're good. They're a pretty good team. They're good enough to be a wild card contender, and in a mediocre Central Division, maybe they have a chance to win that division. But when the schedule gets really interesting here for New York, it is going to be starting on April 27th, when the Yankees hit the road for Anaheim, and they go to the Angels, who've been playing good baseball here to start the season. They go to the Angels for 3 days, the Astros for 4 days, April 30th through May 3rd, and then they come home to do the Yankees to face the Indians for 3 and the Red Sox for 3. So from April 27th to May 10th, they play 4 teams that could all end up in the postseason. And if you want to include Minnesota, you want to include them, well, there's another team as well. There's 5. So there are 5 teams right there that could all be postseason teams out of the American League, and that will be a huge stretch of baseball for New York, the New York Yankees, that is, when we get to that point. In the interim, they got to find a way to calm the seas here a little bit for the Yankee fan and the Yankee Nation, because if they have a rough series this week in Boston, the panic is going to hit a high, such a decibel level that it'll be very, very tough. It'll be tougher on Aaron Boone and this cast of Yankees here in 2018. So we'll see what happens. Give it a chance, Yankee fans. Be patient. And for the Met fans, of course, enjoy the great start. Take it in, and hopefully the good times continue for the boys from Flushing. Folks, been a pleasure doing this short podcast here for you today. Remember, folks, to follow us on the social media at OpenMicNJ on Twitter, Facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, and, of course, like and subscribe right here on the Sports Talk Nation. Remember, folks, that we will be doing some big shows coming up in the next couple of days here, in the next couple of weeks. We've got the draft coming up, so we'll do some stuff on the draft. We'll do some stuff on the Jets and the Giants picks. We'll go around the NFL, of course, at that point. We've got the NFL schedules coming out soon. And, of course, we'll do some more baseball, a lot of baseball shows coming up now. Especially as we go into the season, we'll go around Major League Baseball, we'll do some teams, focus on some teams as well. Folks, it's been a pleasure. Talk to you next time. Remember, like and subscribe. Talk to you next time.